Alright agents, so I'm calling this one the quintessential raid build video. Now I'm doing this one specifically at the request of the members of our Discord community. Now if you've tuned into our channel before, you know that we've done literally hundreds of raid carries. If you have not and you are looking for a community of gamers to join, go ahead and look down in the description. I will leave all that information for you. Now, as always, I ask that you click that like, subscribe, and the notification button so you can be notified when new content comes out. Now, if you've been lucky enough to put together a raid team and successfully cleared the raid hundreds of times, I would tell you that this video is not for you. Chances are you've already done the raid with us. But if you've only cleared it a few times and every time you do, it has been a pain, or you get to Razorback and your team always seems to disband, I would say you need to tune in because there's a few things that you might need to know. Now, essentially, the raid is and always has been just a DPS check. Don't blame me. Massive makes the game.
Facts. We know less than we probably would like to. That is true.
Yeah. Not letting that one go. Now, before I get into showing you the actual raid build, there is something that I want to address, and that is that we get tons of agents always coming in saying that they use this build in their heroics and legendaries. Now, while I would say you can use and probably should use your raid builds in heroic and legendary, it doesn't necessarily mean that your heroic or legendary builds can be used in the raid, and here's why. The mechanics and the NPCs in the raid are like no other gameplay mode. In order to complete the raid successfully, you'll need to be able to defeat them quickly and efficiently. So let's go ahead and take a look at what a basic raid build should look like. Now, when it comes to the raid, DPS is key and crit is king. So your basic raid build is going to be all reds with a focus on crit. Now, crit chance maxes out at 60, so you're going to want to be as close to that as possible. Now for crit damage, I'd say that you're going to want to be in the 150 range and higher, 200 if you've really got some good pieces. So looking at our build from top to bottom, starting with our classic M1A. Now you can use a Baker's Dozen or M1A with Ranger, but the preferred talent you want to have is Boomerang. Now Boomerang talent reads as such. Critical hits have 50% chance of returning a bullet to the magazine. If a bullet is returned to the magazine, the next shot has a 40% increase to damage. In your second slot, you're going to want to have an LMG. Now, in my case, I have an LMG with Strained. Strained talent being gain plus 10% critical hit damage for every 0.5 seconds you're firing. Stacks up to 5 times. So moving on to your backpack, you're going to want to have a Providence backpack with Vigilance on it. Now, Vigilance is going to increase your total weapon damage by 25% by basically not taking any damage. Now, next up is gloves. Now, when it comes to gloves, you have a couple of options. Most people tend to go with the contractor gloves to get the LMG damage plus the damage to armor. In my case, I chose to use the Providence defense gloves because mine came with a really good roll. For knee pads, you're going to want to run the Fox's Prayers, which is going to tie into your rifle damage, plus it's got damage out of cover, which is multiplicative. Now the next piece is mask, and depending on what you did with your gloves, you're going to have a couple of options here. Now in my case, I chose to use the Coyote mask, and I did this because of the Pack Instinct talents in which you and all your allies gain bonus damage based on the distance of the last enemy you hit. Now that damage can be anything from a bonus of 25% crit hit damage, 25% crit hit chance, or a mix of 10% crit hit damage and crit hit chance. So ideally, you'd like to have 3 people in your group run this mask in order to get all 3 bonuses. Now, I want you to keep in mind that you do need 3-piece Providence in this build. And the reason being is that third talent on Providence is 15% crit hit damage. Now, when keeping that in mind, it's kind of going to dictate what those optional pieces are going to be, being that some of these pieces are not optional. Moving on to chest piece, you're going to want to have a Providence chest piece with glass cannon. In my case, I'm wearing a Sacrifice, which is perfect glass cannon. Now, you're going to want to be careful with this, because while you do get a 30% all damage buff, you do take 60% damage when being hit. And last but not least is your holster. Now, you're going to want to find yourself a Grupo holster. And the reason why I say Grupo is because you're going to get another 15% crit hit damage. Now, if you remember at the beginning of this video, I did say that crit hit chance maxes out at 60, but you can get crit hit damage all the way up to 200 and plus. So there's really all that is, agents. 3-piece Providence so you can get your 10% crit hit chance, 15% crit hit damage, additional 15% crit hit damage from your Grupo piece, and your damage out of cover from your Fox's Prayer knee pads. Now, whether you want to wear the Coyote mask or you want to wear the contractor gloves is up to you. I hope this has been good for you. As in always, I'm out.